DNA, they change everything, they have actions on the DNA. So basically, in the DNA, you have at the same time the program and the data also. Everything is mixed. Okay? And this is not so trivial idea, because for a while in computer science, for instance, the data and the program were not loaded in the computer at the same time. Okay? It took really a lot of time before it was completely understood, this idea. But data and program are the same thing. Okay? So for instance, if you want to compare biological and computer viruses, they are pretty much the same way from this point of view. I mean that these are just data that you put in the systems that turns out to be code that are executed by the machine, okay, your body or the computer, and this code just use your resources to do what he wants to do. Okay, so this is pretty much the same thing. So let's see how modest a universal system can be. It's fairly modest, really modest. I mean, this kind of silly stuff, this kind of silly drawing with, you know, this silly triangle and some kind of, you know, some kind of ray signals, whatever you want to call them. Okay, it's universal. I mean, what's it? It's the rule 110. Okay, and it has only two states. 0 and 1, it's a cellular automata and two neighbors. Okay? And this is universal. That means that you will be able to compute everything that is computable with this small system. Okay? If you look at life, for instance, life is universal as well. Okay? You can emulate any computation. If you choose correctly the initial configuration, you can emulate any computation from with life. Turing machines, so if you look at Turing machines, 4 states and 5 letters are enough. Okay, so you have there are some conjectures that 2 states and 3 letters are enough, or something like that. So, but this is not yet proven. Okay, and there are even sillier problems that are Turing complete. This one I really like it because it sounds like a very stupid game. It's the post correspondence. You have a finite number of type of tiles. Okay, so you have dominoes. Okay, you have a finite number of types of dominoes. Okay, you have an infinite number of each dominoes. Okay, on each dominoes you have 2 words, one above, one below. Okay, and the question is fairly simple. Say, can you find the finite arrangement of the dominoes such that the word that you can read above is the same as the word you can read below? This sounds like a very stupid question, right? So you just have finite type, let's say 10 dominoes or 7. Okay, 7 dominoes, and you want to decide whether it's possible to find a finite sequence of these dominoes. Okay, there are only 7 types, and such that the word above here, so you have here ABA, AAB, AAB, B. Okay, so this is this one, and the one below AB, AAB, and you want to find such a sequence such that these 2 words are equal. This is undecidable. I mean that this has exactly the power of Turing computation. You can simulate any computation this way. Okay, so that's kind of quite surprising. So basically, what's going on here is that universal computation may appear anywhere. I mean, really anywhere. And so you have to be very careful when designing a program. So here you have, for instance, life. This is a multiplayer. Register multiplayer in life. So you have a huge configuration, right? But it's not that huge. It's polynomial size with the number of registers, and you have all these configurations here that are settled at the beginning. And if you run live here, it will do the computation of multiplication. Okay. So well, some systems will compute everything, but is it really an issue? I mean, who cares? That's good news. I mean, if I can compute everything with very simple things, that's good news. Okay. Well, not exactly, because as soon as you can compute everything, then this problem with math, that you cannot prove everything. Okay, that's basically because math is too powerful. I mean, you can do too many things. So basically, it turns out that as soon as you're too powerful, and there are things that you can that you could do but you're unable to do. I mean, but there are things that are true that you cannot prove that are true. Okay, and that's exactly what's happening with computation. I mean, that as soon as you're Turing complete, there are problems that you cannot decide. And one which is really annoying and very easy to prove is that it's impossible to decide just by looking the code of a program whether it will terminate or not. Okay? So this is a big issue because you want to make sure that your simulation terminates, and at the same time you want to make sure that the operating systems of some nuclear plant will not terminate. Okay? So that's a very important thing. So that's a crucial question. You don't want the airplane system to crash at some point, but there are some theorem that tells you that it's not possible. As soon as you're Turing complete, you're dead. Okay? So how does the proof work? It's not that hard. So imagine that you have a program here, okay, A, that is able to, if you give him the code of a program B, it tells you whether it will stop or not on input X. Okay? Whether it will stop or not. Imagine that you have that. So you will be able to do it. Anyway, that's fine. So what we will do is that, imagine that we have this program A, okay, but given a program B and an input X, is able to say whether it will stop or not. Okay? So what you do is that you will just build a program that just do the opposite. Okay? So the idea is the following. Is that what you will do is write a program C that will take X as an input, and we do the following. If A or X say that it will stop, okay? So remember that we can encode programs into numbers, okay? So we write a program here that asks the program A, the oracle, basically, whether the program X will stop on input X. And if we say yes, then I will just do the opposite. Then, while true, do nothing. Well, so I'm divergent. I will never stop. Okay? I will do nothing for a very long time. Okay? And else, I stop. Okay? If it tells me that program X on input X stops, then I will stop. Will not stop, then I'll stop. And what's going on now is that this program C has a number. Okay? It's program number Y. And what's going on with C of Y? What's going on with C of Y? What will the program do on entry Y, on input Y? Basically, two possibilities. Either it will stop, or it will loop forever. Okay? So assume it will stop. So if it's C of Y stop, then A of YY should say stop. But C of Y then loop forever. Okay? So it cannot be stopped. But it cannot be loop either. Because if C of Y loop, then A of YY would say loop, and then I would stop. Okay? There's nothing to understand. Okay? You just do the opposite. Okay? If somebody tells you what you would do, okay, you just do the opposite. And there is nobody that can tell you what you would do. Okay? That's basically the main idea. Okay? So the conclusion here is basically that there is no program that will tell you that your program will terminate. Okay? And you see that this trick is pretty... you can turn it in many ways. I mean, you can show that many things are not possible to prove this way. Okay? So, so this is really annoying because you have a huge number of questions that are unsolvable as soon as you're Turing complete, because you're too powerful. Okay? And the situation was quite well described by Rice theorem, so I don't have a lot of time to explain it everything. But basically, the idea is that every non-trivial